Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a very talented character actress. Her name is Susan Varon. Susan Varon, you all know her as Susan from Martin Scorsese's 1990 crime classic Goodfellas. She was also Susie, the wisecracking waitress on Everybody Loves Raymond, and she's been in a lot of stuff. And I'm having her on the show today to talk about all of that stuff. She was also on Life Goes On. She guest starred on Married with Children once. Most recently, last few years, she was on the Daredevil series. And I'm going to talk to her about all that stuff today, and I can't wait to find out her journey in acting. So yeah, here is my interview with Susan Varon. So this is such a great honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, I'm thrilled. It was very lovely to be asked. It's a little bit hard to believe that it's 30 years ago.
Yeah. So going back in time further, though, did you gravitate toward acting early on in your childhood?
Very much so. Yeah, I did. In kindergarten, our play, I was one of the dolls because all the kindergarten girls and boys were dolls. But a few of the dolls had a line or two, and I did, and I was very excited. And I think the night before I got sick, I had a fever, and I had to stay home from school. And my classmate Jill Parker got my one or two lines, and I wept. I was just bereft that I could not say my one or two lines in my party dress and walk across the stage. So that's pretty young. My grandfather and my mother's father was a professional actor. He did films. He was on Broadway. He did radio. He did a lot of stuff. And on the other side of my family, I have a lot of singers and musicians. So I guess it's just, but my two siblings are not, interested in acting, and my parents were not. So
yeah,
yeah. And I was a green and yellow vegetable in third grade. I certainly remember that. Yeah, I always wanted. I think I wanted to be a ballerina, but I was kind of chubby, and that wasn't going to work. So the next best thing was singing and being in plays.
Oh. That you didn't have a dieting option in those days.
Well, no. I mean, it's a shame that I wasn't kept in dancing classes at a very young, chubby age, but I wasn't. And my uncle was an incredible musician, and he was sort of a child prodigy, and he started out at a very young age playing the accordion, and then he transferred over to the piano. But so I was given the accordion to play when I was a young adolescent, and I hated every second of it. It would be a cool thing to do now. It would even have been a cool thing 20 years ago, but when I was in, elementary school and junior high school and having to take out my accordion and play for company, it was not a fun thing for me. So I stopped doing that, and I don't know why I'm telling you about the accordion, but
it's okay.
I just bought a ukulele, and I'm going to try to teach that to myself, so we'll see what happens. Do you play any instruments?
I can play like one note on guitar, and
Excellent.
I can do a little bit of drums, but that's about it.
Drums?
Honestly, though, I have no musical talent whatsoever. When I was growing up, my dad was in a band. And
really?
Yes. For about 2.5 years, he was in a band. They were a horrible rock band. They would do covers of Black Sabbath and Judas Priest, and they would do their own songs that were just way worse. And my grandmother used to drive her crazy. She lived with us, and they'd be rehearsing in the garage, and she'd just be screaming at them. So they had to rent an open space in order to rehearse after a while.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's great. That's fun. What instrument did your dad play?
He's a guitarist.
Love it.
Yeah.
I tried the guitar when I was in junior high school.
Mm-hmm.
My girlfriend played really well, and she tried to teach me, and I think I learned Flute John B. and one or two other songs, but I'm left-handed, and it just wasn't my instrument, although I also took the flute for a while, but because I like to talk and sing, it wasn't my instrument of choice either. Keyboard would be, but I'm taking lessons on and off now, but I play like a not very gifted 4-year-old right now, so maybe when I'm 200, I'll, get up to speed. We'll see.
Yeah, it's just I have my fingers are too fat to play a guitar because I could break the strings,
And the steel strings hurt my fingers. I'm a very sensitive soul.
Oh,
so what
I am
can
too.
I tell you?
Yeah, I am too. So, did you do a lot of school plays and community theater?
Yes, I had great success in junior high playing Bye Bye Birdie. It was a huge deal. We had a double cast, and so I guess there were 4 performances, 2 of which I did. But it was my claim to fame, I guess. I think in junior high, I had a wonderful English teacher, Linda Curry, who said to me one day, I really think you should go after school and take drama, join the drama club. And I was like, really? And I said, why? And she said, well, you read out loud very well, and I think you could probably do something, so why don't you do that? And that's sort of how I got started. And then I certainly found my niche in high school. I went to high school on Long Island, New York, and I went to Herrick's High School, and we had an incredible drama teacher. We did wonderful musicals and plays, and that was it for me. And then I went to Hofstra University, and at that time that I went, many, 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 many years ago, our drama department was considered one of the top drama undergraduate schools in the country, kind of rivaling what the grad program at Yale was in those years at that time. So,
yeah.
And then I fought with my parents to be allowed to go to work in summer stock. My father was adamantly against it. But I won, and I did summer stock in Maine for many years, happily, a fabulous little theater called Thomas Playhouse. I was not a union actress then, but a lot of the actors were, and they would change their last names so that when we got reviewed in the paper, Equity wouldn't know that they were, illegally working. And we did plays and repertory, and it was really one of my most wonderful times of doing theater because, it took a lot. It was very difficult when you were mounting a play. You would rehearse a play all week and then perform it. And then while you were performing that play, you'd rehearse the second play, and then you'd add that. And then you did your third and fourth plays. So by the time everything was mounted, you would every third night or fourth night, you would do a different play. But your days were completely free to go in the pond and the lake. And it was sensational because you could come back and revisit your role every 2 or 3 days, and you really grew a lot. Because when you slap things together that quickly, it's hard to, if you have a very short rehearsal period and then you do it for 2 weeks and it's over, you're closing just as you're sort of learning what you're doing. And then post Hofstra, I fell into a situation with a bunch of friends, and we created inadvertently one of the longest off-Broadway running hits called Tony and Tina's Wedding, which was an improvisational, interactive wedding that ran for 25 years and still spottily is played in different parts of the country. And from that, they were casting Goodfellas, and they were looking for mob wives. And Tony and Tina's Wedding was an Italian wedding, and I played the mother of the bride with a big, big black curly wig and big breasts, and big everything, lots of makeup and jewelry. And they sent Laura Rosenthal, who was a very young casting director at the time. She looked like she was 14. She wasn't. Ellen Lewis was casting Scorsese's film, and they came and looked for some mob wives, and they brought me into audition. But I was really kind of way too young for it.
Yeah.
So I had to audition a few different times for the casting director before she made a decision to bring me in to meet Scorsese.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a very good friend who had worked with him, and I remember calling Mike Starr, wonderful actor, the night before and said, I know that you've worked with him. Would you mind if I mention your name? And he said, you bet, mention my name. Tell him this, tell him that if you want to, if you get a chance. And so when I went in and talked to Marty, I mentioned my friend. We had a talk about him, and it was wonderful, and a very brief audition. And that afternoon I was told that I didn't get the part they auditioned for, but I got another part.
Wow.
Yeah. It was fast and amazing and quite extraordinary. My biggest disappointment at the time was that I was with all the women.
Mm-hmm.
The guys we were doing a day shoot. They were waiting for us to be done to begin their night shoot. So at that time, I did not get to see De Niro or, anybody. The very first time that I ever worked in a film in my life, I did extra work, and I did it for Raging Bull.
Huh.
Yes.
It's interesting.
That's part of what I told Scorsese. I am in the home movies section, and if you really pause the camera, I can show you exactly where I am.
Yeah.
But it went so fast in the movie theater that I remember going to see Raging Bull with my whole family, saying, it's coming. And just as I turned to my mother and said, here it is, and she turned her head and looked at me and said, where? And looked back at the screen, and it was gone. But I was there, and I was there for several days because we were having a heat wave, and there were millions of extras, and we were all in winter garb, and it was wild. It was wild.
Yeah.
But that's when I was sitting next to De Niro, so that was fun.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was cool. But, Goodfellas was a very lovely, exciting time, and a little cherry on top is that we were out in a neighborhood,
mm-hmm.
and so we were using people's homes as dressing rooms, and I got to dress with Catherine Scorsese, Marty's mother,
mm-hmm.
And she was a hoot and a half.
I could see.
I remember it was scathingly hot, and I was getting dressed, and I thought, I'm not going to put my pantyhose on because it's so hot, and they're only shooting us, sort of like from the waist up. And she said, "Oh no, wear pantyhose.
Yeah,
we'd want you to wear your whole costume." And I think about it now, it's like, how could you as an actor decide, I'm not going to wear that one piece of my costume, it's too hot? You don't do that. You wear what you're given. But she was adorable. Adorable.
Yeah. Wow. What was the script? Just as good as the movie?
Well, the book was brilliant by Nicholas Pileggi,
mm-hmm.
and it was, of course, it was not called Goodfellas. I can't believe I'm blanking on what it was called, but they had made a film with Bette Midler and somebody else, and Wise Guy. It was called Wise Guy.
Wise Guy, yeah.
Wise Guy, and it was an amazing script, and the script was, I think it did the novel great service.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was, I think, like when I think about reading Rosemary's Baby and then seeing that film, it's such a gorgeous sort of realization, in my opinion, of the novel, which is amazing. I felt the same thing about Goodfellas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. It took that amazing novel and blew it up. But yeah, I thought and Nick Pileggi was a lovely person. Very married to Nora Ephron.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it was very intimidating to work with people that you were a huge fan of.
It is, but once you get on the set, you have to sort of let that all go, because you have to sort of put yourself on equal level with everybody. Otherwise, it's terrifying to even try to work. But it did go very fast, and it was a very. I found, I didn't really know this until afterwards, but of the 4 women that I was in that little scene with, I was the only one who only worked one day on the film. They all worked many more days. I was only there that long day. So they were already comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I was brand new, and I was excited and terrified, but Scorsese was a living doll, and
yeah.
Asked me, he had some ideas for props for me, asked me if that felt good for me. I was like, sure. I definitely remember, I of all the close-ups, we did mine first, which was a shame. I would like to have seen what it was going to be like for everybody else, but I remember we did it 2 or 3 times, and he came over and he said, do you want to do one more?
Yeah.
And I should have said yeah, but I said, if you're happy, I'm happy. He said, I'm happy. I was like, okay. I probably should have said, yes, let me do one more, and done something outrageous. But anyway, but he was a doll, he was a doll, and it was a great, wonderful set on which to work.
Yeah.
And then years later, I had the privilege of working with one of his daughters, Domenica Scorsese, we worked as actors. She came and joined the cast of Tony and Tina's Wedding. That's how we met. And then she ended up directing her first feature film. It wasn't her first film, but her first feature film called Almost Paris, which we played the closing of the Tribeca Film Festival. And she directed it.
Wow.
So, and we also had done we also did an off-Broadway play together. Before that, she's a wonderful actress and writer herself, but she's an awfully good director.
Mm-hmm.
So.
How long were you there for?
There where?
On the set of Goodfellas.
I only worked. It was probably an 18 or 20-hour day.
Wow.
I was there from 5 o'clock in the morning until probably. We didn't get out until, I don't know, the middle of the night. It went very, very long. The men had been waiting in their trailers from dusk on, and they had a long wait. Yeah, it was only one day. It kind of broke my heart. I so much wanted to be there. And then when I actually saw the film, and I saw that a lot of the other women were playing wives, and they were at the big wedding, and I thought, why wasn't I at the wedding? But I wasn't. That's just the way it was. But the nice thing is that our characters as cast were like woman number 2, woman number 3, woman number 4. But when he wrote, the script out and it was published, my character's name was Susan, which is my name. So he gave us all our own names, which is really very lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did anything get cut out of yours?
Yeah. Well, the editing is a very that cosmetic party. It edits. I'm sure there were shots where you could have seen more of me. But no, it was the full scene. It was the full scene.
Nice.
I remember the woman who's getting her hair done, and she has that big cold sore on her mouth, and it was hilarious. She was actually gorgeous woman, probably the most beautiful woman in the room, and then they gave her this big cold sore with Vaseline on it. And I remember hair and makeup did me up, and I came to the set, and Marty looked at me and he said, I'm really sorry, but you look too good. I have to send you back to makeup, and they got to do something to your teeth and they got to do something to your skin. I hope that's okay. And I said, yeah, sure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they sent me back to makeup. And I remember the night before, I was very nervous. I was probably thinking a pimple on my face or something disgusting like that. When I got into makeup that morning, they said, oh, don't worry. Don't worry about that. We'll fix it. We'll cover it. You're fine. But in the script, the voiceover is the women looked beat up and, you know, horrible. And so I went back to makeup, and they put rubber cement on my teeth. They drew pimples and little veins all over my face. And then we came back to set.
I like that.
That's how we looked.
That's awesome. Wow.
That was cool. That was cool.
So that play, Tony and Tina's Wedding, that you mentioned, that went on for 25 years, was that all that you did acting-wise leading up to Goodfellas?
No, I had done summer stock, and I had done like 3 seasons of that, and lots of auditions. But Tony and Tina, and I did a little off-Broadway stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, Tony and Tina's Wedding was, we had started out, we did it like 1 or 2 performances one year, 1 or 2 performances another year. We were begging the audience to come. We served amazing food. We were all producing it ourselves. And then one of the actors said, all right, he worked on Wall Street. That was his day job. And he said, I'm going to invest so that we can do some sort of a run of this. And I think we did 12 performances. And during those 12 performances downtown in the West Village, we got reviewed, and then the top just blew off of everything, and we began an open-ended run. And from that, it played for several years downtown in the West Village. We moved the show simultaneously to California. That's how I started doing television work. That's how I got Everybody Loves Raymond. That's how that started. And I stayed in California for 9 years. And I was in California when Goodfellas opened, which was a shame because it would have been great to be. I was at the preview in California for Goodfellas at Grauman Chinese Theater.
Yeah.
But I would have much preferred to have been in New York for the opening. But, you know, I didn't have the money to fly myself back and forth, and nobody was inviting me. So I was in California for all that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you do a lot of improv training?
No, it was not my cup of tea in the least. I mean, yes, I did a little bit of improv training like anybody else, but it was absolutely not my idea of a good time. When we tried to invite people to come see it, they said, well, what is it? And it's like, oh, it's hard to explain. But we began to develop it, and I had an extraordinary time doing it, made lifelong friends, and it's how I really learned. What I really learned is to invest in character, and the way an actor who's privileged enough to work, you know, on a television show, a long-time television show, and they play the same character. Everything's driven by the character. Obviously, it's driven by the script and the writers. You need writers. Even with improvisation, we were all writing and changing and adapting and considering. And but I learned so much, and I learned to love doing improvisation. It's it's a great tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little hard sometimes because there are many situations where you get a regular script and nobody wants you to add a line or two here,
Yeah.
or quote improve upon it, or maybe add this. But a lot of directors and writers absolutely welcome it.
Right.
But you have to be able to learn somebody's work by rote and respect it and start from there. And sometimes when you do a lot of improvisation, it's just hard to do.
Yeah.
You paraphrase a phrase or a word or here or that. I have a wonderful friend, wonderful actor, who he just has a photographic memory. So, like Robert Mitchum did. Apparently, Robert Mitchum could They'd give him a new line of dialogue. He'd read it, crumple up the piece of paper, and say, okay. I mean, that, to have a photographic memory, good Lord.
Yeah.
I do not. I certainly know other people's lines better than my own a good deal of the time. But, yeah. If I had a talk show, I would interview any actor who was willing to talk to me and ask them, what is your process of learning lines? Mm-hmm. I'm fascinated by it. I really am.
Well, you should start a podcast. Seriously.
Well, I would. I just don't know if I could get anybody to come on and answer my questions, but I truly am fascinated by it, and I don't know how many other people would be fascinated by it, but I to this day, it's an interesting phenomenon to me.
Yeah, I mean, you don't do it because you're going to get listeners. You do it because you're doing it for yourself, And if you get listeners, you get lucky that way. But yeah, I mean, if you know a lot of people in the business, I'm sure they'd be happy to come on and do it.
Well, I'll think about it.
Yeah, I mean,
because I would really like to know the answer. I mean, that's really why I would want to ask the question, because I really am fascinated. I think I am very fascinated by the process of how people learn things and do things. I've always been interested that way. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You had a tiny part in the Martin Short movie Clifford.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, what do you remember?
Yes, I did. What about that?
What do you remember about that?
Oh, well, I was a lucky duck because I had a line, and Richard Kind, who played Marty Short's father screamed something awful at me, just awful.
Yeah.
I had made a decision at that point in my life because the person who cast this film was Lynn Stallmaster, who was a renowned casting director. And I was doing Tony and Tina's Wedding in California, and I kept getting called in for a lot of stuff, small stuff. And I'd have these casting directors come in and apologize and say, we're so happy to have you here auditioning. We're so sorry it's such a small part. And then a lot of the times I wouldn't get the part anyway. But I got this part. But this part was, in reference to somebody being really fat. Yeah. And I thought, okay, now I've done that in my career. I will never have to do that again, and I'm not going to do it again. I will not always be the fat lady. I'm not doing it, whether I am or not. And Richard Kind, when we got on the set, I remember he said, I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm so sorry. It's like, okay. But what was really amazing about this shoot is that it was at LAX.
Yeah.
And it was a night shoot. And I had that one line. And so there I am. I had my own trailer, which I never stayed in because it was so far away from everybody. I wanted to be with everybody. So I got to stay in the makeup trailer where Martin Short was there a good deal of the time because they would put ice cubes on his face because he was supposed to look like a 10-year-old. I got to stay in the makeup trailer, and he was in and out all the time, and he was a glorious, delightful, charming, fabulous guy. Yeah. So I'm there the whole day, and about 1:30 in the morning, they're just about ready to shoot my scene finally, and they say, no, we're going to wrap it. We're going to wrap everybody. So I came back a whole nother day for my one little teeny line. Yeah. I got a lot of money. out of that one little teeny line. And they told me they were going to shoot me in the beginning of the day the next day. They didn't. I waited the whole day, and I was the last scene. And I remember we did 2 takes, and when the second take was done and they said cut, all the lights went off, the working lights, they started dismembering whatever part of our set in the airport. They just dismantled it, and suddenly it was like, cut! And then everybody started doing their job, and I was just sort of standing there. It was very peculiar. Everybody was very tired. So I was just like, okay, bye. It was very, very strange, very surreal. But Martin Short had 1,000 stories.
Yeah.
They were all funny. Just a lovely, gifted terrific person.
He is. He's one of the greats, that man.
Really, really is.
Yeah. I just remember, he calls you Mrs. Extra Wide Load, and he says,
he does.
Were you packing in about a dozen jelly donuts a day or something?
Yes. Thank you. You remember it. It's just wonderful. And I do remember one time I walked in, probably people will not even know what I'm talking about, but many years ago, they still had video stores.
Yeah.
And you'd walk into a video store, and they'd have all these videos playing in hanging televisions, in the store. And I remember going into a video store and taking out a video, and I'm looking up, and they're playing my scene just as it's happening. Mm-hmm. The person behind the desk looks at him, calling me Mrs. Extra Wide Load. He goes, "Hey, that's you!" I was like, "Yeah, that's me. That's me, Mrs. Extra Wide Load." Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my dad took me to see that movie in the theater when I was 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were like the only ones in the theater.
Well, yeah, that happens sometimes.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of them where we were the only ones in theater.
Where did you grow up?
In San Mateo, California.
Ah, aha.
Yeah, back when it was a nice little beautiful community. Now it's a Silicon Valley .comer community where nobody knows each other unless they work in the computer industry.
Wow.
It's sad. Yeah, everyone's gone that grew up there. It's really, really sad. Did you get fat shamed on Married with Children?
Did I what?
Did they have you get fat shamed on Married with Children?
Well, I didn't watch Married with Children, so I didn't realize that anybody who went into the shoe store was fat shamed. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But my younger brother did, and he was laughing hysterically when I told him that I was going to be in the shoe store. But Ed O'Neill was a living doll, mm-hmm. and very good friends with very good friends of mine who said, "You walk in there and you give him our regards," and I did, and he was a doll. Everybody was a doll. Everybody was a doll.
Yeah.
And there was somebody on some show that wasn't a doll, but I'm certainly not going to talk about them. But he was, terrific. And I was in his shoe store, so I don't really remember much else except that, and he was pretty funny. He really was.
Yeah, he's great.
He really is. And, I don't know if you can recall, but after doing Married with Children for so many years, he had always been also a very gifted stage actor and serious actor. And when he left Married with Children, he tried to do a serious film career.
Right.
He did a couple of, war films or something, and the whole audience laughed when they saw him.
Yeah.
Because they identified him so strongly with that character, and it took him a while. He had to back away for a while. And I'm so glad. I mean, he's had so many amazing, successful careers on television, He's glorious. I mean, I haven't seen him since I worked on the show, but I have very high opinions, and it was lovely working with him.
Yeah, he did one of those 3-hour charity interviews for the Archive of American Television. He was so hilarious with his stories and so politically incorrect occasionally. It just, it's one of those ones I can watch from start to finish and just laugh my ass off every time.
I think I'll try to watch it because I'd love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's on YouTube. Check it out.
Okay. I will check it out. I will.
How about the Life Goes On experience?
I'm trying to think of what his name is. He played Patty LuPone's husband.
Oh, Bill Smitrovich.
Phenomenal. And, again, I believe now, I was cast because I had some meat on me because he had to perform the Heimlich maneuver on me over and over and over and over again, for, all day. And I remember the actor who played Corky was just darling and just a real professional and He was wonderful. Bill Smitrovich was glorious. I loved him. Oops, let me decline that, whoever that is.
About.
I also worked, I think I did one other, I had one or two lines on one show, and then I played the choking victim on another show. And then they had to have me come back and do some looping because they were looking at the episode, and it's sort of like they left it like, did she die? Or is she okay? And I had to go back and loop something like, oh, thank goodness, like, I'm better now, or something like that, because it wasn't playing right. It didn't seem humane enough, or something like that. But Bill Smitrovich was terrific. Loved him.
Yeah, about 15 years ago, I had the one and only DVD they put out of Life Goes On. I hadn't seen it since it was on, and I actually emailed Patti LuPone through her website, and she was very nice. She answered questions that I asked her and stuff. So she told me she honestly did not have a good experience doing that show, especially towards the end. It was just very political there. But she told me, she says that working with Chris Burke, she just learned a lot about life working with him.
Yeah. And, she was pregnant during that show. I remember one of the times when I was on, she was very, 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 very pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
It must have been quite uncomfortable. Yeah, well, that's really nice. It's nice that she, answered your stuff. It was a long show because it was a filmed television show, so it was like making a movie every week. They had
that's what she told me.
Long hours. Very different from a sitcom.
Yeah, that's what she told me. She's like, oh my God. She's like, I don't think there was not a weekend that went by where I didn't sleep. She said.
Oh yeah.
She said she slept the entire weekend every time.
Your days. You're making so much money, but your days are so long. It's relentless, and when you're one of the leads, you're constantly learning a new script, and there are always changes, and it's very demanding.
It is. So how did you get on Everybody Loves Raymond?
Well, because of Tony and Tina's wedding, one of the very gifted actors from it, who is Phil Rosenthal, who was the creator and the showrunner of Everybody Loves Raymond. He had also been writing before that with a writing partner. He did Coach. I worked on Coach. He did Baby Talk, which was based on the movie Look Who's Talking. So when Phil went to California, he just he tried very hard to get opportunities for some of his friends, and I was very luckily one of them. And Everybody Loves Raymond came along, and I remember Phil saying, it's a very small part. You come in, you get a laugh, you go out. That's pretty much it. And my answer was, I'll do anything for you, Phil. I mean, love it. Thank you. Because the show had a kind of a rocky start the first year. It wasn't the huge hit that it was. It took a while for Everybody Loves Raymond to really catch on.
Yeah.
But that's how it happened. So it's the first time that I didn't have to audition for the role to get it. I sort of, I don't know. Did I? Maybe I slipped through the cracks of the big machine, but I found myself cast.
Yeah.
And I was cast as a local hire, so I had to stay in California for a while. And what Phil Rosenthal allowed for me, which was extraordinary, is that because we were friends from college and we'd known each other for years, I had the run of the set as long as I didn't get in anybody's way. Normally, if you have a couple of lines and you're a 3 to 5 day player, on a show, you come in that day and you film it or you rehearse the day before. But I was allowed on the set at all times. I got to see the notes that were given that normally would just be for the full main cast. And it was such a privilege watch everybody work and see the way notes are given and the way comedy is honed and timed, and it was extraordinary, I have to say. It was a real gift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember there was an episode where you challenged Raymond to an arm wrestle in a joking way.
Uh-huh.
And before he left, he said something like, anytime, anywhere. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was. I really had a lot of fun. And still, I wanted to move back to New York because I knew that I had work on Everybody Loves Raymond, but I'm an East Coaster, and my family was on the East Coast, and so I really wanted to come back to New York, and I sort of shot myself in the foot a little bit with Everybody Loves Raymond because I probably, had I stayed in California, I probably could have been in maybe, half a dozen more episodes than I was, but I just really needed to come back to New York. I wanted to, try to get into theater and do some stuff. So.
Yeah. How was working with Patricia Heaton?
Oh, well, she was a consummate pro. Consummate. When Ray first started working on the show, he was a stand-up comic, and he hadn't really done acting before. He had an acting coach. They had a full-time acting coach, a marvelous guy who was on the set at all times the first season or two, and he would have continued to be there. He sadly passed away. He had a heart attack, but Ray did everything. I mean, he wrote, he acted, but he wasn't, they weren't sure at first how, they felt he needed support with acting. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but Patty was the veteran, so to speak. And she was extraordinary because there was everybody on that show were you had real pros, you Peter Boyle and Doris Roberts. Do not mess with them. They're just, and they were not supposed to be on as much as they were on. Neither was Robert. That all sort of developed as it went along. It was great to be around these people because everybody took their work very seriously and was super prepared and happy to be there. And once the show started to really take off, it ran like this amazing, well-oiled machine, and it all comes from the top, and the top really was Phil. So who's now doing, Somebody Feed Phil, and I'll have what Phil's having. He's got all those shows on now, and that's, a second love of his. So
yeah, somebody told me that Patricia Heaton doesn't have a belly button, and I went on Yahoo Images, and she does have one, but it's a very funny-looking outie.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, she had at least 2 or 3 of her kids while she was doing Everybody Loves Raymond, and if you really watched the shows, they never really addressed her pregnancy. It wasn't like she's going to have one of their children, but they'd dress her in these big plaid shirts, and she always had like a laundry basket in front of her stomach, and she'd be sitting. If you really watch the episode, you can see when she's pregnant because they shoot her from like the chest up a lot of the time. It's really funny, but yeah, she just never stopped working, and she was, I'm telling you, she was amazing to be around. And maybe she seemed like she was the straight man, to raise stuff, but she was hilarious. Her timing was superb.
Mm-hmm. Right. Very funny. Very funny.
Right.
How was the Daredevil experience?
Well, who wouldn't want to be with Charlie Cox? I loved every second of that. That was, I was always on the same set, and so I was always with Charlie, Eldon, and Deborah Ann. And trapped behind the bar, by the way, so that everybody else could kind of, if we had a 2-hour break or, 45-minute setup of lights, I was sort of stuck behind the bar because of all the lights and the equipment and everything. wonderful experience. I was gobsmacked when it wasn't picked up for the fourth season. We all thought we were gearing up to start the fourth season. And there's a very big movement still, a fan-based movement to save Daredevil, and with the same cast, who is perfectly still interested and available to resume, but I don't know if that will happen. But it was a marvelous. I loved being a part of it. Julie Schubert was the casting director, and I bow down to her.
Yeah. So do you teach acting?
I have coached, and years ago I taught acting to children and teenagers in a continuing education program at Hofstra on Saturdays. I coach, but very informally. I love teaching because I think when you learn when you teach. And I have great admiration and respect for the good teachers that I've had in my life.
Yeah.
Do you do any teaching?
Oh, I don't have any patience to teach anything.
Well,
the closest I would ever come to teaching would be doing a panel at a Comic-Con on how to start a fanboy podcast. That would be about it. But other than that, I don't really have any skills that I think I can lend to somebody's, life or anything.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, but all right. I'll take that as a part of an answer, but it's probably not the truth at all. But you seem like you've got a nice niche here with what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, with this crazy pandemic that's going on, I don't know if, I'll ever get that opportunity to do a panel at a convention. I was trying to do that like crazy for like almost 2.5 years leading up to this pandemic, but we shall see.
Well, yeah, we shall see. And, I just, it was fan-based, so it was fan-driven, but I did a Zoom panel for Daredevil with supporting characters. And it was put together virtually, obviously, for the San Diego Comic-Con, which is July 23rd through July 26th. And so we, they set up asked 6 or 8 people if they would be available and willing to be part of a Zoom interview. And people said yes. And there was a moderator, which could be you. And it really was very successful. I mean, as Zoom things go, and more people are doing that. So,
I was, I was a stand-up comedian for 10 years, and there's no greater feeling than to be in front of a live audience. And so I don't think I would like the Zoom thing,
I know I agree with you, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Certainly not the same. I totally agree with you. I'm in a lot of singing classes now, and doing that on Zoom leaves a lot to be desired, but it's still better than not doing it at all. But, yeah. Well, I hope for all of us that a vaccine is found sooner than later, and tough time right now.
It is. It's the strangest time I've ever been a part of. But I'll tell you, from the time the internet started, that I can remember the internet until this happened, I just saw the world getting progressively stranger and stranger. And I remember nothing but just amazing, cool things happening before all that happened. I remember throughout the 90s, there was a lot of cool stuff going on and stuff. It seemed so normal then, but now it just doesn't seem normal anymore.
I know. There is no normal anymore.
Were you in New York when 9/11 happened?
Yes, I was. Where I live, I could see the Twin Towers out of my bedroom and living room windows, and I most certainly did see it. I saw the towers go down in real time. I woke up to a neighbor calling me saying, "Look out your window, something crazy." And I looked out my window and saw like the big crater in the first tower, and I thought, what is that? I remember actually thinking, I hope nobody died. I mean, you didn't know what you were looking at, and then I went and got my camera, and I thought, this is bizarre, but I've got to take pictures. People won't believe it, is what I actually was thinking. And as I was taking photographs out of my bedroom window, the second tower was struck. So I have photographed with my Minolta camera that rival the cover of Time, Newsweek, any magazine. I have the moment of explosion and impact of the second. It was very traumatizing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Today I cannot watch any footage of it. I simply cannot.
Yeah, my grandmother had, I had just graduated high school that June, and I spent 9 months taking care of my grandmother until she passed. She was never the same again after 9/11, and she wasn't even from New York, but she just could not believe that happened.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was very, and oddly enough, the whole cast of Everybody Loves Raymond
Mm-hmm.
was in New York. They had come the day before because they were announcing syndication of the show.
Mm-hmm.
It was a huge deal. And then, that happened, and it was all about how can we get out of New York and get back to our families and our homes. But yeah, they were all here in New York as that happened, I remember.
Wow. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Did you have any roles lined up before the pandemic?
I've had some auditions. I actually, I'm part of a project right now that I'm very excited about. Things are being filmed right now as we speak. A bunch of writers and people in the television and film industry in California got together and said, we want to see if we can film in our apartments or our homes on a very small scale during the pandemic in isolation. And they wrote 3 stories for New York and 3 stories for LA. And I ended up filming one of the 3 stories for New York, and now it's becoming a global thing. They have people in Ireland as we speak right now who are filming 2 or 3 episodes. There are other countries that are doing it because they've talked to their colleagues. And I guess it's going to end up being some sort of a mini-series that as yet needs to be picked up. We're doing this under, the union contracts, but for no money. But I'm very excited about it. And it's called the Apartment Complex.
Wow.
I'm very, very, very excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and right before the pandemic, I did something on a new Netflix show that was Israeli-American produced, but I don't know what it's going to be called, and I don't know if they were able to finish all the episodes. And one other independent film that I just did, I played Dead Mom in a casket. Jeremy Piven is one of the major producers and one of the leads in it, and Kathy Moriarty from Raging Bull as one of the leads, and that's called Crabs in a Bucket, and that was finished, and that will be coming out sometime or another.
Nice.
But things have pretty much screeched to a halt.
Yeah, last year in May of 2019, I was attempting to make a pilot. I want to be a TV horror host, and I made an attempt to do a pilot, and I had like 7 to 10 people on board, and we had a script that I wrote that was hilarious, and we were ready to go and stuff. And then the guy that that was like a mentor to me in stand-up. He ended up pulling out as a producer in a very messed up kind of a way, and it didn't get made. And I could see now why that, I think that God protected me, for the present of what's going on,
Yeah.
And after that, and after all this pandemic is over, I'm going to make another attempt to do it again.
Good.
Yeah.
I psychically send you good vibes for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it is a very good time to reinvent, to move laterally to the side of something, to look at a different way of approaching something for many of us, because we have no other choice. And, we're all in the same boat. So it's a time to really try to manifest some things.
The dreams don't have an expiration date, There's no time like the present. I wanted to do this years ago. I had thought about doing a cable access show right at the end of cable access in the Bay Area, and I wish I had done that, but I didn't. And it's funny, I lived right across the street from a cable access station. I could have at least gone and be an intern there and stuff, but I just didn't have the confidence to go do it.
I hear you, and I'm here to tell you that we all just have to sort of, release regrets from the past, forgive ourselves, and be here and now and move forward. Because, we all have lots of regrets. Lots of woulda, shoulda, coulda, didn't, how coulda,
Yeah.
We have to let it go. We really have to let it go. Life is not easy for anybody, and it's very tough for many people. So, I'm just here to say to you, let it go. Move forward, because that's all we have.
Absolutely. So, Susan, we gotta play my secret silly game.
Uh-oh.
This is a lot of fun. This is a series of silly slumber party questions.
Yeah.
And how this works is, I ask you the question, you answer it, and then you ask me the exact same question, and I answer it.
All right.
Susan, are you ticklish?
Very ticklish. Are you ticklish?
Oh, I am baby ticklish.
Yes, so ticklish that if you started to pretend to tickle me from 6 inches away, I would squirm and start to laugh. Or at least I used to when I was little. I don't know.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of the body?
The body or my body?
Anybody's.
The eyes.
That's a popular one.
What's your favorite part of the body?
The belly button.
Well, okay, I should have known that since you did talk about Patty Heaton, so okay.
Yeah.
Do you have an innie or an outie?
I have a very deep innie.
Ah, all right, me too. Oh my goodness.
I've talked to a lot of people. That means that you're going to live a very long and healthy life if you have a deep innie.
Don't tell that to all the outies, okay? Do not let them hear that.
I won't. What color are your toenails painted?
Pink. What color are your toenails painted?
Right now, they're not painted, but last time they were purple with sparkles.
Was that one or two different polishes?
It was together.
Together in one bottle?
Together in one bottle, pretty much.
That's very nice, because I have a bottle that's sort of like gray sparkle glitter all by itself, so you could put it on top of anything.
Nice. I've always liked to go elaborate. I've been doing that since I was 13.
You are a mover and a thinker, aren't you? You're ahead of your time.
Yeah. It worried my parents at the time, but now they accept it.
Good.
Yeah.
So you must have a lot of sandals.
I only have one pair at the moment.
You mean you polish your toenails, but you don't expose them a good deal of the time?
Oh, no, I do, but I just have only one pair of sandals, is what I mean.
All right. Okay. I guess I'm thinking from a female shoe thing.
I've never been a big shoe collector. I get one pair at a time, and that's it.
All right.
What would you say is your best personality trait?
Wanting to connect with another person.
I agree. I think that you and I have connected very well in the last hour.
I do too, but I didn't get to ask you what you think your best personality trait is.
My sense of empathy and the fact that I have no filter.
Well, that's kind of similar to mine, but you probably have a better filter than I do. You have no filter.
Yeah.
Well, you seem pretty filtered here. You could have certainly... But I guess if you're a stand-up comic, you kind of need to be in touch with no filter and free form and what comes to your mind and stuff. So, yeah, empathy is... I'd say in my sleepover party question game that empathy is one of the most important human traits. And to come across people who have no empathy, it's not a fun thing.
Like our president.
I wasn't going to go there.
But you know it to be true.
Well, it's really been lovely talking to you. No, I mean, I'm ready. If you got more questions, I'm willing to answer them. It's,
we gotta get to my favorite question. My final question. That's my favorite.
Okay.
Is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag?
Oh man, more than one.
Okay.
More than one, but I don't. Yeah. Yeah, like fetid sewer water, fetid New York City sewer water. Yeah. Like a mildewy, not my, yeah. What about you?
Either farts or feet.
I was going to say feet, but I thought that was too personal.
Oh, no, you could say it.
I know, but I didn't know if I wanted to give that information away. My brothers and I come from the stinky feet family. My parents didn't, but both my brothers and myself, not pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Not pretty.
How many brothers do you have?
Two. I have an older one and a younger one. I'm the only girl, and I'm in the middle.
Wow.
What about you?
I have a brother who's 9 years older, and my dad, he's the fifth of 6 kids, and the oldest is my aunt. She had to have 5 younger brothers growing up, and then whenever I tell people that, they're like, "Oh, I feel so bad for her."
That's great. Wow, that's a nice large family. Yeah.
Yeah. She unfortunately passed 2 years ago, but she loved my uncles and my dad so much.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
It is.
She was everybody's big sister.
Yeah. I mean, just like anybody, she had her flaws, but she did a lot of great things, you know.
Well, I am flawless, actually, but okay. Yeah.
I can tell that you're a very good sister and a very good person, Susan.
Well, don't go too far. Don't ask my brothers, but I'm an okay person. I'm an okay sister. I mean, I certainly love my brothers. They're very far away and they're very different. And I think it's exciting. For me, I love being an older sister and a younger sister. I think that's a very cool thing. I always wanted a sister. I don't have any sisters. But I have a lot of girlfriends who are very close. So
Same here. I always wanted sisters, and I hung out with mostly girls growing up.
Well, that's a good thing, I think, from we girls' point of view.
Yeah. Well, I'm very compassionate and caring, you know, and I give women something that they can't get from a lot of their girlfriends, you know, or at least their guy friends who are completely straight, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I do my best.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Yes. Well, Susan, I thank you so much for coming on today. You were just so wonderful.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and it's a pleasure speaking with you, and I believe our paths shall cross again.
I hope so. I hope so. Stay safe because we need you, and have a great rest of your day.
You too. All right.
All right.
You will.
I will. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Susan Varon. Ain't she a sweetheart? Oh, well, she's a great lady. Kind, compassionate lady. I enjoyed talking to her a lot. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.